I didn't cry when my son walked past me at his wedding. I didn't cry when strangers sat in the front row meant for family. And I didn't cry when the usher looked at me and said, "Your seat is in the back, near the exit." What broke me was watching my own child celebrate one of the biggest days of his life without even looking my way. I stood there holding an invitation with my name printed on it, wondering how a mother could be invited yet treated like she didn't exist. No one asked where I was, no one saved me a seat, no one said my name. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't forgotten, I was removed. But what they didn't know, what no one in that room could have guessed, was that I held a truth so powerful it would later leave them silent and change everything they thought they had secured. This isn't just a story about a wedding. It's about betrayal, quiet strength, and what happens when a woman who built everything decides. If you not subscribe yet, kindly subscribe and hit the like button. And tell us in comment that did you suffering from these movements? Comment below yes or no. I stood outside the wedding hall for almost 10 minutes before I went in. Not because I was late, but because I wasn't sure if I was welcome. The music inside was loud. Laughter spilled out through the glass doors. People were celebrating, smiling, hugging, families taking pictures, mothers fixing their sons' collars, fathers wiping tears from their eyes. And yet, something felt wrong. I checked the invitation again. My hands were shaking. My son's wedding. My name was printed there, plain, small, almost like an afterthought. I had imagined this day for years, ever since he was a little boy running through the house with untied shoes and scraped knees. I imagined sitting in the front row, standing proudly, being introduced, being seen. But as I stepped inside, reality hit me like cold air. No one looked at me, not one person. I stood near the entrance, holding my purse, scanning the room. Tables were full, seats taken, family clustered together, laughter echoing. And then I saw it, a sign near the front, reserved seating, immediate family only. I smiled softly and walked closer. That's when one of the ushers stopped me. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said politely. "Those seats are reserved." I nodded. "I know. I'm his mother." She looked confused, then uncomfortable. "Oh, I'm sorry. I was told his mother wouldn't be sitting there." I felt something crack inside my chest. "Where should I sit?" I asked. She hesitated, then pointed toward the back. "There's some open seats near the exit." Near the exit. That's where I sat, watching strangers take photos with my son, watching another woman stand where I once dreamed I would, watching my own child walk past me without even looking. That was the moment I understood something terrifying. I wasn't just ignored, I was erased. And the truth is, this didn't start at the wedding. This started years ago. I raised my son alone. His father left when he was 6. One morning he packed a bag, said he needed space, and never came back. No calls, no birthdays, no apologies. It was just me and my boy after that. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I skipped meals so he could eat better. I wore the same shoes for years, so I never complained. Because every night when I tucked him into bed, he would hug me and say, "I love you, Mom." And that was enough. Or at least, it used to be. Things changed when he met her. I won't say her name, not because I'm afraid, but because she doesn't deserve to be remembered. At first, she was sweet, polite, smiling too much, always thanking me. But slowly, very slowly, I felt myself being pushed out. Phone calls stopped. Visits became shorter. Holidays were suddenly busy. And when I did see my son, he was different. Quiet, guarded, like every word he said had already been approved by someone else. Once I asked him if I had done something wrong. He laughed awkwardly and said, "Mom, you worry too much." But I could feel it, the distance, the silence, the way love can cool without ever fully disappearing. I told myself it was normal. "He's grown," I said. "He has his own life." I didn't realize I was being replaced. The wedding invitation arrived 6 months before the date. No phone call, no conversation, just an envelope. Inside, everything was formal, cold, clean. My name wasn't written by hand, it was printed. I remember staring at it, wondering if this was how strangers were invited. I called my son. He didn't answer. I texted. No reply. Later that night, he finally messaged back. "Sorry, Mom, busy day." I asked if we could talk about the wedding. "Everything's planned already," he replied. "Don't stress." Don't stress. I didn't ask about seating or photos or traditions. I didn't want to sound difficult. I didn't want to lose him even more. So I stayed quiet, and silence turned out to be my biggest mistake. Back at the wedding hall, I sat alone. People glanced at me. Some whispered. I heard someone ask, "Who's that?" Another voice replied, "I don't think she's close family." That word, think, as if my role in my son's life was a rumor. The ceremony began. Music played. Everyone stood. My son walked in, smiling, happy, free. Then came the speeches. His father's side spoke. Her family spoke. Friends laughed, joked, cried. No one mentioned me. Not once. And then, the moment that shattered me completely, the bride took the microphone. She thanked the parents who raised him with love. Parents, plural. And she gestured toward her family, not me. That's when I understood. This wasn't accidental. This was intentional. I wasn't forgotten. I was excluded. And something inside me went quiet. When pain becomes too heavy, it stops screaming. It starts planning. I didn't cry. Not there. I stood up quietly and walked toward the exit. No one stopped me. No one noticed. Outside, the air felt different, cleaner, sharper. I sat in my car and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I looked older, smaller, but my eyes, they were clear. For the first time in years, I asked myself a dangerous question. What if I stopped begging to be loved? I didn't want revenge, not yet. I wanted truth. And if the truth hurt them, that wouldn't be my fault. There was something my son didn't know, something no one at that wedding knew. Years ago, when my husband left, he left more than memories behind. He left debt, serious debt, creditors, legal threats, papers I barely understood. I fought for years to protect my son from it. I paid everything off quietly, including something much bigger, the house. The house my son believed would one day be his, the house his wife already talked about renovating, the house that was never legally his because I never transferred it. And after that wedding, I realized something. Love given without respect becomes a weakness, but truth changes everything. I didn't act fast. I waited. Weeks passed. Then months. I watched from a distance. They posted photos, trips, smiles, and not once did my son reach out. So I made a decision, not out of anger, out of clarity. I met with a lawyer. I organized documents. I wrote letters I never sent. I wasn't planning destruction. I was reclaiming dignity. And soon, they would be forced to see me. The call came on a quiet Tuesday morning. My son's voice was tense. "Mom, we need to talk." I smiled, because now they were ready to listen. And this time, when my phone rang that Tuesday morning, I didn't rush to answer it. I let it ring. Not to be cruel, but to remind myself of something important. For years, I had answered immediately. Every call, every text, every last-minute request. This time, I needed to hear my own breathing first. When I finally picked up, I kept my voice calm. "Hello?" There was silence on the other end. Then my son spoke. "Mom, we need to talk." Not, "Can we talk?" Not, "Are you okay?" We need to talk. I leaned back in my chair. "About what?" I asked. Another pause, longer this time. "It's about the house," he said. There it was, the first honest sentence he'd spoken to me in years. I didn't respond right away. He cleared his throat. "There's some confusion with the bank. They said your name is still on everything." Still on everything. As if that were a mistake. As if I had simply forgotten to erase myself. "I never took my name off," I said quietly. The line went silent. Then I heard her voice in the background, sharp, controlled, whispering, but loud enough. "Ask her what she's planning." I smiled to myself. Planning, as if dignity required permission. "I'm not planning anything," I said, "but if you want to talk, you can come by." Another pause. "Today?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "Today." I hung up before he could say anything else. For the first time in a long while, I felt steady. They arrived that evening, together. My son stood stiffly by the door. His wife didn't sit down right away. She looked around the living room like she was measuring it, evaluating, claiming. This house had heard laughter, tears, late-night worries, quiet prayers, and now it was a negotiation room. "Sit," I said calmly. They did. My son avoided my eyes. She didn't. She crossed her legs and folded her arms. "So we're just trying to understand why this is coming up now." I looked at her. "Now?" I repeated. "You mean after the wedding?" My son flinched. She smiled tightly. "That has nothing to do with this." I nodded. "You're right, it doesn't." Then I turned to my son. "You asked me to come today, so tell me, what do you want?" He swallowed. "We thought the house would be transferred once we were married. We've already made plans." Plans, without me. "I see. And did you ever ask?" He opened his mouth, closed it. She leaned forward. "We assumed it was understood." Assumed. The word hung heavy in the room. I stood up slowly and walked to the cabinet by the wall, pulled out a folder. Thick, organized, final. "Nothing is understood," I said, especially. I placed the folder on the table. Documents spread like cards, deeds, statements, old letters. My son stared at them. His wife frowned. "What is this?" she asked. "This," I said, "is the life you both live without ever asking how it was built." I pointed to one paper. "That debt your father left behind, I paid it." Another. "The mortgage that almost took this house, I paid it." Another. "Every legal responsibility tied to this place, mine." My son's face changed. Not anger, not disbelief, guilt. "I didn't know," he whispered. "No," I replied, "you didn't want to know." His wife scoffed. "That still doesn't explain why you'd hold this over us now." hold it over them like a weapon. I met her eyes. I didn't hold anything over you, I said evenly. I held everything together. Silence fell. Then my son finally looked at me. Mom, why didn't you say something? I laughed softly. Would you have listened? He didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. I closed the folder. There's something else, I said. His shoulders stiffened. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. At your wedding, I continued, I was told I wasn't immediate family. My son's face drained of color. His wife straightened. That was a misunderstanding. No, I said, it wasn't. I looked directly at her. You made sure I was placed where I wouldn't be seen. She opened her mouth, then stopped. I turned to my son, and you let it happen. His eyes filled. I didn't think it would matter, he said. That sentence hurt more than anything else. Then you didn't think about me at all, I replied. Tears slid down his face, but I didn't reach out. This wasn't the time to comfort. This was the time for truth to sit heavy. I'm not here to punish you, I said finally. They both looked up. I'm here to be clear. I slid one final paper across the table. A simple statement. The house would remain in my name, for now. What does that mean? His wife asked sharply. It means, I said, I'm no longer giving without respect. My son stood up. Are you saying you're cutting us off? I shook my head. No, I'm saying I'm stepping back. I picked up my purse. I spent years shrinking so you'd feel comfortable. I'm done doing that. They watched me walk toward the door. For once, they were the ones. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because things were resolved, but because I had finally chosen myself. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message from my son. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't see it before. Can we talk again? I stared at the screen. Forgiveness is powerful, but timing matters, and consequences teach lessons love sometimes can't. I typed one sentence. We will when you're ready to listen. I set the phone down. Outside, the sun rose slowly, and for the first time, I felt seen, even if only by myself. I didn't tell anyone what happened that night. Not my sister, not my friends, not even the neighbor who always asked too many questions. But silence has a way of making noise when other people start talking for you. Within a week, I started noticing changes. Calls I hadn't received in years suddenly came in. Are you okay? What's going on with the house? Why are people saying you're being difficult? Being difficult. That's what they called a woman who finally stopped saying yes. I didn't correct anyone. I didn't defend myself, because the truth doesn't need shouting. It just needs time. Then one afternoon, my sister called. You need to fix this, she said immediately. No hello, no concern. Fix what? I asked calmly. You're embarrassing your son, she snapped. People are talking. I smiled. They talked when I was quiet, too, I replied. I just didn't hear it then. She sighed loudly. You're being stubborn. No, I said. I'm being honest. She hung up on me. That's when I realized something important. Some people only support you when your silence benefits them. 2 weeks later, my son showed up alone. No warning, no message, just a knock at the door that sounded unsure. When I opened it, he looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, shoulders slumped, confidence gone. Can I come in? He asked softly. I stepped aside. He sat on the couch like he used to when he was younger, hands clasped, eyes down. I didn't realize how much you did for me. he said suddenly. I didn't answer. I didn't realize how much I let you disappear. That one landed. His voice broke. After the wedding, everyone kept asking where you were, why you left early, why you weren't in photos. He looked up at me, and I didn't have an answer. Silence filled the room again, but this time it wasn't cold. It was heavy with regret. I messed up, he whispered. I sat across from him. You didn't just mess up, I said gently. You chose comfort over conscience. Tears spilled freely now. I thought keeping the peace meant avoiding conflict. I nodded. He stayed for hours that day, talking, listening, crying, and when he left, something felt different. Not fixed, but cracked open. A few days later, he called again. This time, his voice was strained. We're fighting a lot, he admitted. I didn't ask why. I already knew. When respect is borrowed instead of earned, it creates pressure, I said. Eventually, something breaks. He was quiet. She says you're manipulating me, he finally said. I laughed softly, not amused, just tired. She said that from the beginning, I replied. I know, he said. I just didn't want to admit it. That was the moment I knew. The truth was no longer mine alone. A week later, my son came back. This time, he stood straighter. I need to tell you something, he said. I waited. I told her the house stays in your name, he said, and that my relationship with you isn't negotiable. My chest tightened. And? I asked. She said I was choosing you over her. I shook my head slowly. No, you're choosing yourself. He nodded. She didn't like that answer. That night, he hugged me, really hugged me, like he used to. And for the first time since the wedding, I cried. Not from pain, from relief. The final call came from her, direct, sharp. You've ruined everything, she said without greeting. I didn't argue. I didn't ruin anything, I replied. I just stopped pretending. She scoffed. You planned this. You waited. I paused. No, I said. I survived this. She went silent. Then her voice dropped. He'll resent you for this, she warned. I smiled. He already resented me when I stayed quiet, I said. At least now it's honest. She hung up, and just like that, her power vanished. A few days later, my son sat across from me again. I don't know what the future looks like, he said, but I know I don't want to build it by erasing people who loved me first. I reached for his hand. That's all I ever wanted you to know, I said. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. Not violent, not loud, just steady, the way truth always arrives. And what came next would change everything. The house felt different after that. Not louder, not happier, just calmer. My son started visiting again, not out of obligation, but intention. He asked questions, he listened, he stayed longer. No phone in his hand, no rushing out the door. One evening, as we washed dishes together, he said something that made my hands freeze. I don't remember when I stopped seeing you as my foundation, he said quietly. I dried my hands slowly. Foundations aren't noticed until the ground shakes, I replied. He nodded. That night he left with a long hug, not the polite kind, but the kind that says thank you for not giving up on me. A month later, my son told me the truth. They were separating, not in anger, in honesty. We rushed, he said, and I let fear decide things I should have handled myself. I didn't celebrate. I didn't say I told you so. I just listened. Because justice isn't about watching someone fall. It's about watching them finally stand. She never wanted balance, he admitted. She wanted control. I placed a hand over his. Love that demands erasure isn't love, I said gently. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. The house stayed mine, not as punishment, but as a reminder of survival, of boundaries, of everything I built when no one was watching. One afternoon, my son stood in the doorway and looked around. "You never realized how much of you is in these walls," he said. I smiled. "Most strength isn't loud. It just lasts." He nodded slowly, and for the first time I saw respect in his eyes. Not guilt, not fear, respect. Months later, a small family gathering took place. No speeches, no spotlight, just food, laughter, and honest conversation. My son introduced me proudly. "This is my mom," he said. "She raised me on her own." No hesitation, no qualifiers, no erasure. And in that moment, I didn't feel victorious. I felt whole. Here's the truth I learned, the hard way. Love without boundaries teaches people how to ignore you. Silence doesn't always mean peace, and staying small to keep others comfortable will eventually cost you everything. I didn't win by taking anything away. I won by standing still and letting the truth walk forward on its own. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't exposure, it's self-respect. And sometimes the loudest